Hi, I'm Ron Applebaum, and I'll be your instructor today on how to shoot video with your still camera. Actually, everything I'm going to teach today will also apply to shooting with a video camera. I started taking videos probably 30 or 40 years ago. I was taking videos of classes, of weddings, bar mitzvahs, special dinners for different charitable organizations. And then I started doing videos for a tour broker who sold trips to the Mediterranean area countries to various travel agents. So I have a little bit of experience. Let me talk a little bit about the history of doing movies. Back in the day when the first cameras came out for home consumption, there were 8mm film cameras that the roll of film lasted about 4 minutes. There was one lens on the camera. The camera was a wind-up thing where you could only shoot as long as the tension on the spring lasted. After a while, they came out with a new type of camera that had a turret in the front that had 3 lenses. So you turn it one way for wide-angle shots, another way for medium shots, another way for telephoto. As technology improved, they came out with a zoom lens where you could just go ahead and zoom in or zoom out to make things closer or further away. A lot of people just loved that and did too much zooming, and it wasn't a pleasant experience for people who watched a 4-minute video that could make them seasick. For example, my father used to go traveling a lot, and he'd go like to Europe and be on a bus and start shooting video through the window of a moving bus while zooming in and out and panning left and right. Just in 4 minutes you can get bored and you can get seasick. So I want to teach you today how to avoid these pitfalls and hope that you'll be able to apply them to your own video making. So let's talk about concepts. In still photography, the viewer determines how long to look at an image. We study the subject from a single perspective. We see the artist's creation from the point of view of the one moment in time from which the image was created. In videography, the videographer determines how long the viewer sees a scene. The video gives the audience the ability to see beyond a single perspective point of view through camera movement and taking two-dimensional images and stringing them together in something called sequencing. So let's take a look at an example. If you want to go ahead and photograph a friend spending a day at the golf course, how would you do that? Well, you might take the first shot of him coming up, or her coming up to the clubhouse, walking through the front door, then going to the starter and checking in, and then walking out to the golf course. You might show him setting the ball up for the first shot. You show him swinging back the club. You take another shot of him looking out at the distance, and then another shot of him swinging and hitting the ball, another shot following the ball, hopefully to the hole. Then if he didn't get to the hole, you can take another shot of him putting to the hole, then getting into the golf cart and going on. So what is video? Video is the system of recording, reproducing, or broadcasting moving visual images and sounds. A series of photographs taken at set intervals so as to create the illusion of motion, typically 30 or 24 frames per second. And you normally see that as FPS. I'm going to show you now what happens at 1 frame every 2 seconds. What I did is I set up a tripod and took a still photo every 2 seconds using an intervalometer of delivery men setting up an entertainment center. Now, what would have made the action smoother? If you take more frames per second, it'll be smoother. Up to a certain point, you have natural movement. But beyond that, it'll end up being slow motion because you'll have more frames taking the same amount of action. Let's talk about different types of cameras. Digital SLR gives you a lot of control. You can have a shallow depth of field. There tends to be a time limitation of how long you can take a video. Like if you're taking a long speech, some of the cameras will time out after a while because the sensor gets too hot. So you might want to just sit down and start the video on your camera, let it run, and see how long it goes before it shuts itself down. You don't want to be videoing something important and have the camera stop on you right at an important part. A pocket camera is the simplest to use, but also provides the least amount of control. A hybrid camera, also known as a mirrorless camera, combines best of the digital SLR with the interchangeable lenses with the smallness of a pocket camera. It's lighter weight, and it's easiest to switch between photography and video. The video camcorder is made specifically for video. So what are the controls on typical SLR or mirrorless camera? You would have live view. Live view is when you see the screen on the back of the camera with the video or whatever you're shooting, as opposed to having to look through the viewfinder. The reason for this is when you look through the viewfinder, there's a mirror that goes up and down when you take a picture. When you're doing video, the mirror is always up, which means you won't be able to see anything in the viewfinder. So it goes to the live view. You have a start-stop button. You want to check to see if you need to hold down the button while recording or just to start and stop it. Most cameras now you just press a button to start it, another button to stop it. Some of the earlier cameras, you had to keep holding the button down while you're taking the video. You got to remember that each time you press the button, the camera is going to move a little bit. And then there's a zoom rocker or a button, and these will be on your pocket cameras or video cameras, but not on your SLRs. So on your SLR, what you want to do is zoom in to whatever you're taking to frame it properly, but do that before you start to run the video. It's almost impossible to zoom while videoing on an SLR, but it is possible on a pocket camera or on a video camera. The menu function set I'll talk about on the next screen. The auto manual focus. Well, let me give an example of this. Let's say you are videotaping a lecture. If you're on autofocus and someone walks between the camera and the speaker, the focus will change. So it's best to use manual focus for this type of situation. I've taken video at dinners of a speaker, and after the dinner, the waiters are going through clearing the tables of dishes, walking right in front of the speaker, and so all of a sudden the focus will be on the waiter instead of the speaker, and then it would bounce back to the speaker. So use manual focus in this type of situation. There's also auto and manual exposure. So let's say you're going to take video in a room and you want to pan the person walking around the room. And that person's going to walk by a window. So you would want to set the exposure manually. So the bright areas such as the window and dark areas around the rest of the room is going to cause a problem. On auto exposure, the scene will get brighter and darker while taping, which is very distracting. On your camera, you're going to have programmed auto exposure, a shutter priority setting, an aperture priority setting, and manual exposure. General rule of thumb is to set the shutter speed at 2 times the frame rate. Frame rate is typically 24 or 30 frames per second, so you would set the shutter speed at 30 or 60 of a second. You want to set the aperture to wide open, and then you adjust the ISO to get the correct exposure. There's also settings for auto white balance, or manually setting to daylight, shade, cloudy, tungsten, fluorescent, or custom white balance. I tend to leave everything on auto white balance. If you set something, if you have fluorescent lights and you set it to fluorescent, different fluorescent lights have different color balances. The best way, if you have time, is to do a custom white balance, and you get a gray card and set the camera to the white balance of the gray card. Some cameras have digital effects. This is mostly with video cameras, where you can do fades and wipes and change it to black and white or sepia or art. Don't use these. You can add these effects in the editing program. For example, if you tape in black and white and later decide you really want a color, you can't undo the black and white. But if you tape it in color in the editing program, you can make it black and white. So photography and video is the recording of light. Bad lighting equates to bad photos and video.
This is one of the LED lights that you can get at B&H Camera or just about any camera store. And it fits on the hot shoe of your camera and just turns on. And it's a pretty bright light. So you can see on my face how much brighter it is than that. You can bring out all the details. They're not good for any great distance, but for an interview or something like that, this would work great. They come in different sizes, different amount of LEDs, and they're relatively inexpensive. I think this was like either $19 or $39.
Sound is very important with video. The sound quality is better as you get closer to the person talking. So there's microphones that are built into the camera. These generally aren't very good. They can pick up noise while you're adjusting controls on the camera. Better way is to use a wireless microphone and receiver. This is best for interviews and talking heads. And it can be lapel mounted or handheld. One time I was interviewing a Holocaust survivor, and the person decided wanted to get up and get something to drink, and I had a wired microphone from the camera to the individual, and the person almost pulled the camera over when they got up. So wireless, you don't have this problem. If they get up and walk away, they could be 100 feet away and you still would get good sound. So the wired microphone that I was talking about plugs directly into the camera and hooks onto your shirt or blouse. A shotgun microphone sits right on your camera and is good for getting sound of distant subjects. You got to remember to always use an earphone if you're using an external microphone. Sometimes the microphone's not turned on and you won't know that unless you're using earphones. I know somebody who was going to China to interview some people, and they wanted some information, and I went with them and got a video camcorder and microphone, and I said make sure that you use your earphones. And they decided that wasn't really necessary, and they forgot to turn on the external microphone, and all they got was video of people with their mouths moving, which wasn't good at all. You want to keep the camera as steady as possible. And the best way of doing this is with a tripod.
So this is a fluid head tripod. As you can see, it moves very smoothly without jerking motion. And it drastically improves your video, especially if you're moving, if you have a moving subject.
The monopod is better than hand holding, but it's still not great because it'll lean left or right or front or back. And let's talk about points of contact. Remember the old VHS camcorders were gigantic things that you put on your shoulder, you held up to your eye, and you had your hand holding it. The new video cameras are so small that you hold it with one hand. You might have it up to your eye, but a lot of people just use the swing out screen, and it's very hard to hold that steady. If you must hand hold, you want to make your body a tripod. You spread your legs wide apart to provide stability instead of standing with your feet close together, which makes your whole body prone to wobbling. You don't want to lock your hands and elbows against your body. You can use your shoulder strap. If you're primarily focusing by looking at the LCD on your camera, shorten your shoulder strap to use it as a short but strong contact point that you can push away from you, so your neck or your shoulder is holding the strap and your hands are holding the camera steady in front of you. Remember to breathe. Don't try and hold your breath throughout your video shot. You end up gasping for breath eventually, and that will cause more camera shake than if you breathe normally in the first place. You want to breathe smoothly, slow, and steady. Also, to keep the camera steady, or appear to be steady, you want to use a wide-angle lens, or the wide-angle setting on your zoom lens. The longer your focal length, the harder it is to achieve a steady shot. If you're using a zoom lens, stick to the wider end of your zoom. When you're at the long end of your zoom lens, even your breathing creates camera shake. It's better to shoot wide and stand closer to your subject.
Okay, I wanted to demonstrate how the longer the focal length is on your zoom lens, the more motion you have. Here I am with my arms against my body, breathing in and out, and you can barely see any motion in the lens. Now let me zoom it out to the 400 level, and now I'll breathe. And you can see a lot of motion, and so it's best when you're shooting video to go to the wide angle setting and shoot that way. You can always move in to get a closer shot.
If you have an image stabilizer vibration reduction lens, use that, but not on a tripod. On a tripod, some of the lenses tend to go ahead and create motion itself because it doesn't think that there cannot be any motion, so it creates its own. Brace yourself. Find something to brace your body against, whether it's a tree, a wall, a counter, or something else. The more body weight you place on the object while leaning, the better it is. Another thing you can do is use a beanbag. You place the beanbag on any surface, it could be a rock, a fence, a wall, a shelf, a tree branch, and then mold your camera body into the beanbag to hold it securely and absorb any vibrations. I've also gone ahead and bunched up a jacket or a sweater and set the camera on that. You want to find shelter, especially from the wind. If you're shooting outside on a windy day, step into a doorway or between a couple of buildings to shelter yourself from the gusty wind. The sound on the video is terrible when the wind hits it. It's like thunder or a jet flying by. Another thing you can do is some external microphones have what they call a dead cat, which is a fuzzy thing which fits over the microphone, and that reduces the noise of the wind.
This is a shotgun microphone. It's good for taking video and audio of subjects further away, or even if you want to get sound from a stream or a river, this will help the volume on that. And as I mentioned before, This is known as the dead cat. It's used when it's windy outside. You can see that it would slide just right over the microphone, and that would deaden the wind noise.
If you must move, use your legs as shock absorbers. You want to bend your knees and take long strides to absorb any shake. Your legs act like shock absorbers and absorb any bumps as you move across uneven ground. If you want to pan, swinging your camera from one side to the other, you want to do this with your hips. The best way is to position your body facing where you want the pan to end. You hold the camera close to your body with your elbows locked in tight. Don't bend your knees, but keep your legs firm and still. Using only your hips, rotate your upper torso 180 to 240 degrees. Begin recording and slowly unwind to your desired final shot.
Well, I had to pause this video instruction because 2 jets were flying overhead. You have to be careful and listen to ambient sounds. There's a bird, there's golf carts driving around. So I had to wait till the noise pretty much settled down. So what I want to show you is panning with your hips. So let's say there's a race to this big tree over here. And how would you want to do that? If you just keep moving around, moving with your feet, you're going to have jerky motion. So the best way is to start focusing on the final destination and then turning with your hips to where they're coming from. Start the recording when they come into view and slowly spin around till you get back to the tree. If I would have started over here and followed them around, I might not be able to bend all the way to get to that tree. So by starting at the tree, backing up, catching the action, you're guaranteed that you can finish up where you wanted to.
There are different ways of conveying motion. You can let the subject move. You can follow the action. You can both have the subject and the camcorder move. You can have the camcorder move, or you can use your zoom lens, which you don't want to use too much. And you want to mix them up. I'm going to go ahead and show you a video now on how to show movement on some video I took in Africa.
If you look there, it's a few baobab trees there that you can see. Can you see them?
No, go ahead first, because I may take a while to figure out what to put.
I wish he catches fish, then he can get all the action, yeah?
That goes.
Impala.
Impala, yes. Impala, you're raising it this way.
Egyptian geese.
Egyptian geese.
The animal.
This is an impala here. Impala.
Germans couldn't aim on them. So
She's gonna be on the road in a second. Nah. Uh-oh.
summer.
Patrolling the channel or to walk or looking for some good places or to dig it and
So people often ask, how long should my shot last? Well, television and movies are typically 3 to 5 seconds. If it's faster between shots, it increases the feeling of tension. Sort of like Indiana Jones at the beginning, if you were to time when that giant rock is following Indiana Jones, it's probably 1 to 2 seconds for each clip. You should start the camera a little bit before you actually want to start recording the thing. When you press the button, the camera jerks a little bit and you get motion. So if you start the camera and wait a second or two and then start filming the actual film that you wanted to shoot, you'll be better off. It's very easy to edit that out. Also, if you're doing an interview, let the camera keep running even after the person stops talking. Many times the person will have an afterthought, and if you stop the camera, you're going to miss it. The other thing you have to remember is to listen. You do not want to cut out sounds. If someone's talking, you don't want to stop the camcorder or your video while the person's still talking. Now we'll talk about workflow. You want to know what the purpose is of the video. Is it a travelogue? Is it a birthday? Is it a wedding, a dinner, or something else? And how do you want to tell your story? Do you want to have a narrator? Do you want the character talking? Do you want titles? Do you want captions? Each story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. What is yours? In a minute, I'm going to show you a video I did of a hot tub installation. Who is your intended audience? And how will the final product be distributed? Is it going to be on DVD? Is it going to be on Blu-ray? Is it going to be on a thumb drive? Is it going to be VHS? Is you going to email it to somebody? You're going to put it on YouTube? Are there going to be commercial sales? If so, you have to watch out for rights to the music if you're going to use music in it. So let's do the video of the hot tub installation.
That's good. Okay, you ready? Yep. I got it. The bundles of siding for decking might be in the way for you to walk past on that side. So. Take our time, nice and slow. Watch your steps. And plywood. That's right here. Oh.
Bob the Builder.
know how I feel about being on camera. Down to our shoulders. Keep coming. Give me some weight. You guys are too strong. Okay. Once you get the shoulders, hand up to the acrylic.
I don't think I can reach that.
Okay, I got it, Steve. Go ahead. All right. Straight back. Bend your knees. Keep your back straight. That's it.
I don't want to get hit in the shin again. This cart has a good rebound if you get it right.
If you could help us right here, Steve. We're just gonna, in one quick motion, lift and move about a foot. 1, 2, 3. Good.
That one's.
We may have to undo
Okay.
this hose here, guys.
But we can come this way too. And rest.
Just scoot those out of the way, it's fine.
Well, as you saw, the video just started and there was no introduction to it. So let's do an introduction.
Hi, I'm Stefan with Haven Spa Pool and Hearth, and we're here at the home of Ron and Judy in Tigard, Oregon. Let us deliver their new hot tub for them here on the back deck. So I hope you enjoyed just kind of getting an idea of the video and how we get them in and out of homes, and invite you to call us at Haven Spa Pool and Hearth, 503-655-9440. Thank you.
And also we need a conclusion. So let's see the conclusion.
I'm Ron, and I'm another happy customer from Haven Spa, Pool, and Hearth.
Okay, so let's talk about problems that you might run into. You have your camera set up on a tripod during a wedding ceremony and somebody goes ahead and kicks it accidentally. Well, you caught the camera, but there are several seconds which can't be shown. What can you do? So you want to always shoot something called B-roll, which is extra footage. It could be of guests, it could be church details, etc. So get some close-ups of the bride and groom before or after the ceremony, and go ahead and insert those where the motion of the tripod falling over would be. How do I make it look like two cameras when I only have one? Well, you can shoot the same action twice from different angles and focal lengths. You want to be at least 20 degrees apart from one camera to the X. Don't zoom. Instead, stop the camcorder and change the focal length and start taping again. For example, start with a wide shot, then go with a close-up, then use a medium shot. If you have two cameras, you could set one at a wide angle, use the other for close-ups and medium shots. If you look at a lot of television interviews, they'll only use one camera and they'll film the person who's talking, and then the interviewer you'll see nodding his or her head up and down like they're listening, but this could have been filmed at a totally different location at a totally different time. You just add that in as a B-roll. Zooming is not a natural human experience. While some superheroes can zoom with their eyes, we're not so lucky. In the human world, if you want to take a closer look at an object, you do just that. Get closer. If you're watching a movie, take a look and see how often there's a zoom used on a shot. It's very rare. And as I said earlier, still cameras were not intended to be able to zoom during video operation. So you get back home and you want to know, how do you put all the pieces together? Well, with editing program, you can add titles, you can add transitions. So video transitions, a lot of people just say, wow, there's 120 different video transitions that I can use with my video editing program, and I'm going to use all of them. And it gets to be where the audience is waiting to see what the next video transition is going to be that you use, rather than what the video is all about. You can also increase or decrease the volume. Many times I've seen videos of like a waterfall, and the sound is so much louder than everything else in the video that people just jump. You can decrease the volume of the waterfall so it's not so abrupt. You can also correct color, brightness, etc. And you can add music. So to illustrate how adding music can make your video more interesting, here's the same Africa video that you saw before, but with music.
As night fades out, faded by the sun, 10,000 men stand high on the hill. Allow silence and the earth is still. 10,000 men tremble for the kill. Mayland sitting on their own, each one thinking who is coming home. The spear clashing, screaming through the air. Each one shivers in her hardest fear. The fight's over, hands and birds won. The fight's over, hands and deed is done. The fight's over, the toxic side has won. The fight's over, war hasn't just begun. A bunch of lies, the freedom cries, the warrior cries, the battle of power, the scavenger strength. Each man that is made.
So here's some helpful hints. If you shoot wide angle, you have less shake and more is in focus. You want to keep the sun at your back to avoid silhouettes, but watch for your shadow. Take a variety of angles of the same action. Also use a variety of close-ups, medium shots, and wide shots. The number one mistake is moving the camera so much that it induces seasickness in the audience. Keep any movement slow and steady. Don't turn your camcorder on its side to get a vertical shot. I'm going to show you how to take pictures, a video of a waterfall. A lot of people who take video with cell phones shoot in an up and down vertical position. You really want to go ahead and shoot with it wide, left to right, because that's the way your televisions are. If you notice any news stories where somebody sent in video, there will be black borders on left and right, which is to fill up the space on the screen. So shoot wide. Remember that your goal is to convey information to the viewer, and if you can, make a long story short. Some people often ask about doing a music video. There's two different styles. One is everything is synced to the music, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. You want to keep the cameras running for the entire piece. So you could have 5 different cameras, and if you have to start and stop some of them, you'll never get them all synced together. In the old days, they went ahead and had a clapper where you would have a wooden thing come down and go, and this was to sync all the different cameras. So you can still do that now. If you have multiple cameras, you point them all at a person who is clapping their hand, and you can sync both the motion of the hand and the sound of the clap. The other style is none or just some of the scenes are synced to the music. It's a lot easier to edit. You could just have any kind of scene with music as the background. So here's a video that I really liked that I got off YouTube of the San Sandoval flash mob. If you have any questions, if you know my number, you can call me, or else you can email me at abaum936@aol.com. Thank you for your patience in viewing this video, and I hope you learned something.